Hello everybody, Serbian Rugby League has a special guest today, a legend of the game, guy who's actually been the coach of the Serbian national team, Lee Crooks. Lee, welcome back to Serbia.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Is it nice to be back here?
Yes, it has. It was a traumatic day yesterday, quite a long trip over, but once I got a few hours kip and that, it's been absolutely fantastic.
You've been associated with Serbia since 2011. You were doing the head coach's job, so it's like 14 years. You've seen how Serbian Rugby League's developed. Do you enjoy the game here and where it's going and the players you've worked with here?
It's interesting. I think that there was certainly a big push when I was coaching, and I actually worked over here for the Rugby League as well prior to me coaching. So doing some coach education stuff. So I thought at the time the Rugby League was going to push Serbia. I think that unfortunately, the European games probably been put on the shelf, for want of a better word, in favour of Super League, and I think that it's a shame really, because there are some very, very good players out here. They just need to be nurtured and to be coached in the right way, and I think that Darren Fisher, who's coaching now, I think he's probably an ideal coach to coach Serbia. He's very passionate about the game, and I think that hopefully he'll be able to take them forward.
Very good. You were a revelation for the game when you came up. You were one of the youngest. You were the youngest forward to be capped for England. Your signing for Leeds was a record at the time, wasn't it, and all that. How was that for you as a young player to keep yourself grounded and concentrating on your game?
Well, considering that as a kid I never thought that I was good enough to be a professional rugby league player, certainly not to get signed on. And I think that it's amazing. I think one thing that helped me was I was brought up in an older generation where I knocked around with all the kids. I ended up meeting my first wife. She was 6 years older than me, and so I was knocking around with grown-ups then. And I think that when I signed on, it just helped me to be in and around grown-up people. And I surprised myself by how quickly I got into the first team, and it just seemed like a natural thing for me to be able to do what I did. I had a coach in Brian Amblin who was very good as ex-professional player for Hull, but I think that I certainly didn't get the in-depth coaching that I think kids actually need now, and because of that, I think that I was amazed really in myself how I just took to being a professional rugby league player.
Well, it's also you was basically one of the pioneers who changed the role of the prop in the game, because up until you, nobody was doing offloads. None of the props could pass the ball really. Goal kicker as well. Was that something that you saw coming from other props, or was it something that came up on you? Was it just your idea that or were coaches saying, "Oh, you're going to try and put a pass in or offload"? Or there was no such thing as an offload back then, was there really?
Yeah, I think that. Certainly, I started off in the back row, and one bit of advice that Steve Norton gave me was that he just said to me, "Look, just run into space. I'll make sure you get the ball." And some advice that I did, and it worked, because Steve was actually a fantastic ball player. So and I could catch and pass a ball as well. So for me, it was mainly it wasn't tuition. I think it was just me being aware of what was in front of me, and basically what I said to players in and around me was, make sure that you follow me. If I carry the ball forward, I want somebody on my shoulder. 9 out of 10, if I give you it, you've got half a chance of making a line break or you'll score. You might be the odd 1 or 2 times where you end up getting flattened, but that's a price you might have to pay.
Yeah. And you were playing right at the top of the game. Hull FC were one of the top clubs. I mean, they've always been among the top clubs. And then that signing for Leeds was a big move. Was there any hesitation you at the time? Did you want to go to Leeds, or because Gary had gone, or?
No, I think that the Leeds thing was I was playing for Balmain Tigers at the time, and I got a phone call from Len Casey, and he just says, "You need to come home." And I went, "What for?" And he says, "We sold you to Leeds." I said, "What do you mean you sold me to Leeds?" He said, "Well, we've sold you to Leeds. We're short on money, and the club's decided to sell you to Leeds." So I went, "Well, I'm not going," and I put the phone down on him. Anyway, I got another phone call from Keith Barnes, who was the CEO of Balmain Tigers, and he says, "Lee, you'll have to go back and try and sort it out because they've threatened to put an embargo on players coming over." So I ended up having to go back. Ultimately, the club says, "Look, we need the money. We need to get rid of you." So I ended up having to sign for Leeds unwillingly for what was then I think a world record transfer fee. I signed for the club, and then Gary signed just after me for I think it was 155,000. Had to top it. I think he'd put the extra $5,000 in his sen. I think so, but yeah. So ultimately, I ended up spending the next sort of 2 years at Leeds.
Yeah. And so you played in what was then the Winfield Cup before the NRL came along. And was that a shock to the system to go over to see how the Aussie clubs performed, or was it similar to what was going on with the top UK clubs at the time?
No, I think it was a totally different game, because I think that when you walk around, the first time I walked around Sydney itself, having got there, and I'd been there, I played there in '82 for the Colts, and in '84 I went on the tour with Great Britain, but just playing for a club team and the train completely different. It was a lot more aggressive training. Players were a lot fitter. It were a little, not robotic, but it were about, people just used to carry the ball really aggressively. And I had to say to the halfback at Western Suburbs at the time, which were Trevor Cogger, and I just said to him, like I told all the halfbacks that I played with, just follow me and you'll get the ball. 9 times out of 10 you've got a good chance of making a break, and the odd chance that you might get flattened. But and it were really interesting that there were lots, as I went through 2 years with West and then Balmain Tigers, is the amount of people that used to come out and fly out the line to try and knock my head off, and all of a sudden somebody would support me, so I'd tip the ball on and they'd just run into the space where that person just run out from. Did
that change the way they were defending against you then? They were hesitant to come and smash you because they knew you were going to get the ball away?
No, not really, because they just kept doing it, trying it, because they thought at one time we'll get you, but without wanting to blow smoke up my backside, generally 9 times out of 10, I got rid of the ball, and used to pat them on the back head and say, "Never mind, try it next time." So, but yeah, that was the difference between that and just the way that in Sydney you walk around and everybody wants to be fit. There's loads of people, women, kids, men, doing yoga, doing exercises, playing rugby in the park, all that sort of stuff. It's a completely different environment to what it was in the UK, and that amazed me unbelievably.
Yeah. So, and you were, they're bringing back the Ashes this year. Personally, I think it's long overdue. I mean, I'm really looking forward to seeing them. But you were there at a time when, even though we'd never won a series, that British Lions team was always competitive. Do you think that was because of the experience of the Australian game, that people like you and Gary and Ellery and you all had that?
To a certain extent, I think, going over there was certainly evolved me as a player, challenged me to get better. I think that we were always in a situation where we had a chance. We always played well in the first game, but Australia just upped the ante and come back in the second and third games. And I think that when you look back at history, we always win one game, but we never win two, and we're not. And the reason for that is because the ability of the Australians, because of the amount of what's the word I'm looking for now? The amount, the player pool, as well as the competition and the competitiveness of the competition as well as the Origin game. So if you look at this year, you know, the Australian team have been through an intense NRL league structure. They've had 3 really immense Origin games, which is, and then they're going to pick a team from those Origin games to come and play England. Whereas over here, we've had a dysfunctional Super League competition at the moment. There's teams that are running away with it. Not running away with it, but the top 4, maybe 5, 6 teams are really good, and then below that we're probably struggling a little bit. 7 in that, because Wakefield have played some really good rugby. So, but the top 7 teams are quite competitive, whereas the other 3 or 4 are not so competitive. So, and you've got to pick an international team from those players. The one saving grace I think we've probably got is that we've got quite a number of players that are playing in the NRL at the moment, and if we can bring those players back fit and ready to go, then I think that will add to our competitiveness. But I still think we've got a good chance of winning the first game, but the Australians will just lift the game to another level and win 2 and 3.
Yeah. Well, that's what they've always said for years, haven't they, that with the Australian game, there's no easy wins. Everyone's even competitive. In the wooden spoon teams, they're not going to be a walkover, is it? You think?
No, I don't. I think that, you know, it's really difficult because you ability-wise, we've got some really talented players, and I think that, but the competitiveness of the program that we've got that we're playing in at the moment isn't challenging enough for them, so they're not getting better, and they need to be challenged to get better. The lads that are playing in Australia, fantastic, and I think they'll come and they will definitely add value to the English team. I'm not too sure what Sean Wayne thinks of this, and I'm sure that he thinks that he's got a team that can win the game, and if I'm wrong and Sean's right, then, you know, I'll be over the moon, because it'd be no better for me to watch an English team winning the Ashes again. So, but I honestly don't think that we're in that position at the moment where we can play 3 straightforward games and be competitive in all 3 of them. Certainly against an Australian team that probably could bring 2 teams over here. And
yeah. Do you think that? I mean, a lot of people, it's a controversial issue as well, but trying to emulate the Origin with the proper War of the Roses 3-game series, sort of in the same way the Origin does, would that work, do you think?
You'd like to think it would. I think the big thing is that from my past experience, having coached Origin, I think Yorkshire certainly were up for it. I'm not too sure, and I think that Lancashire, I think, won both series certainly the series that I did. I coached Yorkshire and Andy Gregory coached Lancashire. I know it sounds a daft thing to say, but I think that Lancashire was sort of going through the motions really, and we took it quite seriously, but unfortunately we still weren't good enough to win that. So basically what I'm trying to say is that unless you've got both sides that are going to be competitive and going to take it serious, then it's probably a waste of time. You look at the Origin series, everybody wants to play Origin, everybody wants to win Origin, and they will bust their so-and-sos, to make sure that they win the game. And I think that that's the type of competitiveness you need. And I just don't think we can generate that sort of influence around the players at the moment.
Yeah, you'd probably have to get that passion in the fans first, and if the public wants it, then the players are going to want it, aren't they? You know.
Yeah, I think that if the fans are there and they want it to be a spectacle, that will help. But the be all and end all is that the game is going to be based around what the players want to do, and if the players take it seriously and they really challenge themselves, and that might be a monetary thing, it might not, but to have that, I think if it was a continual thing, then I think that eventually the players would feel that pride and that passion and take it really seriously, because usually they're just one-off things. I just don't think they take it as seriously as they could do, and I think that from my point of view, then it becomes a waste of time. So and a waste of the players' energy and an extra game for them that they probably don't really want to play in.
So from being as a player right at the peak of rugby league in the Sydney competition in the UK, playing internationals, you ended up coaching Serbia, which is a periphery. It's it's just development. And what was that experience like, to not only to work with the Serbs but with playing against the Lebanese and the Italians and all this? What was that year like for you?
I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it for a reason, and that was because it was a challenge. It was certainly a challenge to me. The two coaching roles that I had prior to that was one at Keighley and York, and then I was assistant coach at Old KR with Justin Morgan. But to coach an international team was certainly a challenge for me, and overcoming the language barrier and everything that goes with that. But the players were outstanding, really, and I think that we were always going to be on the back foot to a certain extent, purely because we played an Italian side that had 5 NRL players playing at that particular time, and all our lads, barring one, I think, was from the UK. We're all from Serbia. We played a Lebanon team that were give us a really good hiding in Lebanon, and they had a lot of NRL players playing. So yeah, we were always on the back foot. But for me, the players wanted to play. They took it really seriously, and as I said early in the piece, I think if the RFL had probably supported the game more over here, then I think that certainly it would be a lot bigger than it is at the moment. I think that unfortunately the European part of the agenda when it comes to rugby league has probably been pushed to the back of the queue a little bit, and that's unfortunate, because you go around different countries and there's always bits of talent that you can pick out, but that talented kid has got nothing in and around him to be able to challenge him and make him a better player.
Do you think that when for internationals, they bring in heritage players from Australia and the UK, do you think that actually ends up hurting grassroots development on the ground, or do you think it helps them to raise the profile of the game? If like Italy getting into a World Cup, but they haven't really done anything on the ground in Italy. Yeah,
I think that it all depends how you go with it. I think that Serbia have always they've dropped bits, and they've got 2 or 3 players playing, and that you've got to have the majority of your team, or the nucleus of your team, has got to be from the country that or homegrown lads. Get some Australians in, because that will help those better lads become even better. And I think that when you look at, I think Italy's, they've brought quite a number of Australian players over from the ARL and the NRL, but as it was then, but they haven't done anything on the ground. And I think that you need the clubs in Europe need help to do things on the ground, and I think that Serbia have pushed and pushed and pushed, and probably are the major European team that's actually off their own back been pushing the game generally within the country, and I think that certainly they've got a massive cohort of Serbians in Australia. I think that the game needs to be promoted a lot better through rugby league sources, and getting people that are top quality players that are Serbians, like the Trebojevic brothers,
yeah,
and a number of other players in Australia that are Serbian orientated. So using them as a gear to promote the game, I think would be massively beneficial to Serbia.
Yeah, well, it's like we're lacking household names. We say we should have some guys to go on the poster in the wall for the young kids, don't you? That's what you want to get.
Yeah, I think that's and again, you know, that's I think down to that bit to promote it is down to the Serbian rugby league organisation, but to try and then to promote it worldwide, I think, you know, we need a bit more of a joined up thinking, because the European aspect of the game, we've got Catalans in France, we've got also they've got a really good competition underpinning the Super League in France. Toulouse are obviously playing in the Championship, but they use their government. The government in France are the ones that are really pushing the game of rugby league and promoting the game of rugby league. So I think that we need to try and work out how we can help as a governing body and as a country. How can we help Serbia and the rest of the Montenegro and the rest of the countries that are playing rugby league? How can we help them grow bigger and stronger?
Yeah. Also, the big news this year, obviously, the knighthood of Billy Boston. It's long overdue. What do you think that the British establishment's finally buried the hatchet with rugby league?
I don't know. I'm absolutely over the moon for Billy. He's such a tremendous person, as well as a player. But you know, you sit down and you talk to him, and he's been absolutely outstanding. And when I've seen him at British Lions dinners and stuff like that, he's always willing to have a chat with you. He were an outstanding player. I think that everybody recognises that it's nice as well for the game to have somebody that's been knighted. I think that hopefully the next one on the list is Kevin Sinfield, because of the work he's done for the MND community and for the game in general. I think it's been absolutely outstanding, and I don't know what it is. I think there's something in regards to rules as to why he hasn't been knighted yet, but hopefully in the not too near future he'll be the next one on the rack.
Great, thanks for that. What's Lee, the future hold for Lee Crooks? Have you got plans moving forward? What are you doing with yourself now?
Well, I've been at Hull now for near enough 10 years in a development capacity, and then as welfare manager, and then obviously we had the change around, and what I've decided to do was try to do some work for the foundation. You know, I worked for Rugby League Cares for 18 months, and I really enjoyed how I could help the community in regards to the rugby league community. So that was a big push for me, and so I'm now working at the Hull FC Foundation. We go around the city looking after to care homes, going people with dementia, Parkinson's, and just trying to give something back to the people that supported me as a kid and supported the club throughout their lives. So if I can do that and I can make a difference in that way, then you know I'll be over the moon.
Yeah, I'm a Rovers fan, obviously, but I'm also first and foremost a fan of the city of Hull, and I'd like to be in those finals against Hull FC. I want Hull FC also to be a top team. Last season was a bit hit and miss. Cartwright's come in. What do you think of the way he's rebuilding him? It seems like to be a really clued up guy.
Yeah, I think that John's a good coach. You know, I think he gets the best out of the players. We're in a situation, I think, now where if you look at the top teams of the game, they've all got people that have got a lot of money to spend, and I think that we're in that bracket now. And I think and money don't buy you success, but it's how you spend it that buys you success. And I think that we're in a position where the players don't want for anything, the coaching staff don't want for anything. And I think that as long as we get the right players the right players at the right time, and we get them to gel, then I think we're going to be up there with the top 4 or 5 teams in the competition. Certainly next year. I'd like to think we can get in the top 6 this year, and hopefully at some point we can have another all-Hull Challenge Cup final.
Yeah, that'd be good.
So, which would be absolutely outstanding. So, and hopefully we could win it this time. So.
Well, thanks, Lee. Yeah, well, I wish you best of luck for yourself and for Hull FC moving forward. Thanks, mate.
Cheers, Mark. Thank you.
Cheers. Okay.
Great. Yeah.